Alright guys, welcome to part 2, and hopefully this video will be a little bit faster since I don't have to explain too much. And I also do like this duel a little bit more because there is a lot more informative things on the screen that the players show that will give a little bit more details as to how you'll figure out the game, or at least how some of the mechanics work. And this portion of the video, we are now seeing the perspective of the opponent, so we're seeing their deck instead. So this is a shooting type deck instead of a physical. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right to it. Okay, I made this sort of shortcut that if you want to pause the video and look at this is pretty much a lot of the stuff that we figured out from the last video. The only thing that I still don't know quite what it is yet is that thing right there at the middle right of the screen. No idea what that is yet, but I'm pretty sure we'll figure that out later. Okay, here, so we see another tip on the screen. This explains more into detail about how rapid cooling works. The number at the bottom middle of the card that I explained in the previous video. Okay, so I believe this Medabot is Pink Dia, but the translation is a little wrong or something like that. Anyway, so this card would give you two tactical icons, like the mana, for shooting type. It has a 4-cost ability. It just says aiming. I'm pretty sure it means something else, but I think this just does damage to a select target. It's not considered attacking. But the passive effect on this is when this Medabot destroys a target with targeted shot, restore 2 of its type's tactical stock. So this deck is kind of centered around using your tactical cards and then getting your resources back. So it's like you pay two of that tactical stock slash like mana, and then you use this Medabot to destroy a target, and then you restore that quote unquote mana. So you use more tactical cards. It's kind of a way of like getting your resources back. Okay, we're introduced to another card here. This is definitely an Arc Beetle tactical card. So you choose one of your Medabots, it's a shooting type, and you increase its power by 2,000 until the end of the turn. It sounds like a really good card, but the fact that it costs 3 to use that, I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, to each their own. So just to save on time and stuff like that, if a card has really nothing to it, or if we've seen it and discussed it in the previous video, I'm not going to show it on the screen this time, just so we can get through the game, but just a little bit faster. So these are the hover type leg cards. They have the simple effect of draw up to 2 cards from your deck. That's actually really good because most card games, if you have card draw, you usually benefit quite well with that. So I think I've also noticed that your leader, depending on their leg type, there'll be an icon at the far right of the card. That's the kind of cards I believe you'll get at the very beginning of the game like this. Okay, so I did miss this in the previous video. You do actually get to see your opponent's leg part cards as well. So this is the bipedal legs. Until the end of the turn, reduce your leader's action cost by 1. The cost cannot go below 1. So this is a card that can let you use your leader's abilities a bit more often, or at least not cost as much energy. Okay, so this guy's pretty simple. He pretty much just has that like aiming ability again that costs 6 energy, and he's a guard. He can block attacks. Okay, so we have to talk about War Bandit here. He is probably a fan favorite of a few. But his ability is damage from your type of tactical card is increased by 1,000. So he is another way to increase your tactical card's damage, especially for shooting types. As I said, this deck kind of focuses on those tactical cards. So while it switches over to the opponent's turn, I want to try to explain a little bit of what our player here is going against. I believe the deck that they're going against here is more of a physical mixed with support type deck. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of status effects with this one. I know, especially from that card that they just played on the right, it definitely has a burn effect that I believe reduces the attack of the opponent or the Medabot that is burned by 3,000 when they try to attack. But we'll see more of their cards later on, and they'll hover over them and explain a bit. Okay, so as I said, our player hovered over here, so I can explain this card. It has the Gamushara keyword, so when it attacks, it gains a damage boost, and then when it's over, it will lose that damage boost. But when this Medabot performs a normal attack, the target becomes burned until the end of the opponent's turn. So as I said, this card inflicts that nice burn damage, so it kind of prevents them from hitting real as hard as they would like to. And it does stop a lot of attacks. Yeah, as you saw, the opponent did just use that rapid cooling feature, so they could attack with either or the leader or that Medabot they used that on because of that rapid cooling. They can't attack with both because they need at least 12 energy to do that, but they only have 11, so they have to decide which one they want to attack with. And then speaking of that, we actually get to see what the leader will do. So this leader, whenever you pay 4 energy, you will randomly receive 2 support cards. These 2 cards are really, they're not something out of your deck. It's more like these are just cards that are off to the side that you'll just get whenever you activate this ability. They have their own separate effects that I don't think they even cost anything to use. Now you'll actually get to see here that keyword that I keep talking about, that Gamushura keyword, or whatever it's called. You saw that it went from 6,200 to 8,200 power. That is that keyword that I talk about. Also, we see the leader using their power with that 4 energy. So, like I said, those cards don't come from your deck. They're just somewhere off to the side. Plus, we also get to see the opponent leader's left arm effect. So when this Medabot performs a normal attack on the opponent's leader, the opponent draws 2 cards from their deck. Then, if the opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, destroy an additional one of their parts. So this is a way to kind of get rid of at least 2 things from the leader. If only you attack with that leader Medabot. So a lot of these things have some real stipulations, but this is actually a decent way to also get another kind of win condition. By making your opponent deck out. And as I said before, yeah, I think from what I understand, the right arms usually are just damage boosts, and the left arms are where the effects come in. So this is probably also a good time to maybe talk about some of the phases of this game. I don't know exactly all of the phases, but I do know that there are some things that you can only play during certain parts of the game. So at this beginning phase, I think is where you can deploy more Medabots to your side or swap anything out or swap parts on your leader. And then there's another phase where you can actually play these like tactical cards. And then there's definitely I think I don't know if it's a part of it, but it's just the action phase is when you can actually attack as well. So you have to kind of plan out some of this stuff beforehand. You can't just have this one huge main turn where you do everything. But as I said before, this deck does rely on those tactical cards. So if you look at the bottom left of the screen, you can see there's this player has a lot of tactical icons or shooting icons, so they could play all of these tactical cards if they want to. Okay, so this is a part of a video that I really do like. This kind of shows a little bit of that combo thing going on, and it kind of shows off this keyword ability of the aiming one. So what this aiming keyword does is I think you pay the cost and you're shooting a Medabot. You're not attacking it. You're pretty much just shooting it with an ability, and because they played that tactical card beforehand, the effect went off. So since that Medabot got destroyed, the opponent had to get rid of a barrier card. So it's kind of like piercing through their barrier or their Medabot to do damage directly.
バリアを選ぶんですね。そして、これもやっときますか。使えるものは使っておく。他の選
ドカーン。リア様とチュートリアルで戦っておくべきだったな、これは。
ははは。バチアさんのターン。
That is one thing that I do kind of like about this particular duel is that the player here does tend to hover over a lot of the cards and try to figure out a bit more of the effects and abilities.
的に6枚以下に構成したというよりは流れで6枚以下になった。どっち
Okay, we get to see another meta fighter. This is Samantha. Until the end of the turn, put the next Medabot to be transferred into standby mode. So what that means is you'll play out a Medabot and usually it enters into that cooldown mode immediately, something like that summoning sickness. This actually gets rid of that. As soon as you play this thing, it has like rush, it has like haste, it can attack or do an ability right off the bat. It doesn't have to go through rapid cooling or anything. But I do believe that the opponent kind of played this card at the wrong time. I think that card you might want to play it before you actually set out a Medabot. I'm not sure if you can actually, if it works by swapping out another Medabot. The opponent didn't really do that, but I mean, still, that's a pretty good meta fighter to use.
どうしようかな。こうして、
回復して、
こうして、いや、こう。おー、
強くなって、
これはいけるのだろうか。あ、いけないか。いけてた。
ちゃんは右腕が特にあれをスキルがないけど、プラス10のバフがあるんですね。
はい。
それはそうです。でもリアちゃんも持ってるんだね。そこはお揃いです。
バチバチの殴り合いをしています。
拳と拳。ああ、悩ましい。使いたいね。今リアちゃんの方が山にある札の数が少ないんで、
本当ですね。
捨てた今。あ、1枚だけ。出産はないページですね。捨てない勇気も大事です。大事です。捨てない勇気。これを、そうです。お疲れ様です。そうなります。これは倒したんです。リアさんも燃えてます？なんか燃えてんね。どうした？このですね。あなたですか
Okay, so this is probably where it's going to be the best thing for me in this game, is that we're actually going to be able to see what these keywords do and a better explanation through Google Translate what it all means. So, from what I understand, that keyword Gamu Shara, I think it's just called, it says fighting hard or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Pretty sure it's wrong translation. But anyway, so it explains what that keyword does. It says it before, this Medabot's power increases by 2,000 during normal attacks. Power returns to normal after the attack ends. So during the game, you're able to press a button or something like that to bring up this like helpful thing, or this helpful page to actually show what the keywords are and what all these abilities mean. And it's even showing what the burn status means, which says at the bottom, when the target Medabot performs a normal attack, its power decreases by 3,000. Power returns to normal after the battle ends. So if you're burned, when you try to attack, you lose 3,000 power. So like I said, this page right here is probably going to be the best thing for me in this game because it's going to be able to explain so many things and have Google Translate be able to actually give me a better description of what is happening.
対象のメダロットが通常攻撃するときパワーが3000
減少してんの？今何になってんの？
燃焼。
減って6000ってこと？
いや、もともと6000。
あ、そうなんだ。
っていうやつ。
燃えてる。今リアちゃんが攻撃すると減るってこと？
5000になるよってすると減る。うん。3000になってしまう。
あなた今燃えてますから。
燃焼させてた。じゃあ攻撃しなければ大丈夫ということですね。
まあ、つまりはそういうことよね。
これがパーモスさんの力ですね。燃焼。このメダロットが通常攻撃したとき、対象の相手のターンの終了時まで燃焼する。ファイヤー。燃焼。
So, as I'm watching this over again, I do notice that the ability that they use, at least for shooting type Medabots, that aiming keyword, it seems like it takes the power that you have and you do like an ability attack or an ability like damage. You're not attacking, so you could, I believe you could kind of get over some of these keywords. So if Pink Dio was burned, it wouldn't technically be attacking. It would be using an ability to do damage. So I don't think it would get that negative effect from burn. And the big like warning thing or big blue screen that just happened there a moment ago, it was trying to tell the player that there are still Medabots that can do stuff or act. So it's kind of like, hey, don't stop your turn yet. You can still attack or do something. However, their leader was burned, so if they tried to attack anything, nothing would have happened.
正しい腕。バグコード。手のメダルと一体選び、放熱状態にし、このターンの終了時まで束縛とは束縛されると。攻撃できなく
So I went ahead and waited to actually show this screen, not immediately discuss what the card was, because this is the new leader part that the opponent equipped, because they decided to get rid of both of their arms instead of their barriers. And also, the description of the card is really weird. Google Translate made it say, choose one of your opponent's Medabots, put it into a heat dissipating state, and until the end of your opponent's turn. So I'm like, I don't know what that was meaning. Like, what does that even say? But this is what it's doing. Essentially, you choose one of your opponent's Medabots for 2 energy, and that Medabot, if it tries to use the rapid cooling effect, it'll have to increase it by 2. So if you could rapid cool one of your Medabots for 2 cards, you discard 2 cards, you actually have to discard 4 instead. So that's the reason why I waited till this part, because the description of it is very, very odd.
対象メダルと継続冷却にかかるコストが2増加。シアさんの束縛。どうしようかな。また燃焼させてた方がいい気はするなぁ。どっか燃焼させる。で、束縛系女子。あ、まちゃちゃちゃ。させてもらう。で、アタックは足らないんだ。足らない。選ぶ。次の自分のターンの開始時までパワーを1000増加させる。
Okay, so what the opponent here is doing is they're spending a little bit of energy to boost the damage number of one of their Medabots, but at the cost, if you look at that support Medabot or that Medabot on the left for the opponent that's green, if you look at the very bottom of the card, you can see, well, not right now, but here in a moment, yeah, you can see now the rapid cooling is actually crossed out. So when you use that ability to buff another one of your Medabots, you can't rapid cool down that Medabot anymore. I think they do this to prevent you from like boosting something up like 10,000 damage because you have so many cards in your hand. You're just rapid cooling down this Medabot over and over again. So there's a little bit of balance to it.
よく忘れてしまう。
As I mentioned earlier, I do think that at this point, after you draw your cards, is where you're able to do able to play Medabots, and you're able to swap out or equip new parts. If you were to skip this step, you will actually not equip a part, or you won't be able to play out another Medabot. So you have to make sure that you do that at the very start of your turn, or else you might be in some pretty serious danger.
これを一応使っときまして、おお、なるほど、そうやって使うのか。今度やろう。やられてしまう。やっと手札の使い方がやっと分かってきた。やばい、あまりわからないままやっているのがバレてしまう。
So I do think that the player probably could have actually cross-attacked here with all three Medabots, both the support and the leader. But I'm not quite sure if they forgot or if they were worried that the burn effect might take away the damage too much, but I don't think it really would have mattered at that point. They would have had quite a lot of damage, and they would have been able to get rid of a lot more stuff from the opponent if they would have hit with all three.
しょうがない、リアスもある。一旦しょうがない。燃えているから。しょうがない。ずっと燃えたの？もうずっと。さっきも燃焼を私が使ったので燃えています。
So what I've seen and witnessed so far in this game, I do know that these are pre-made decks, so they're not really completely min-maxed. You know, they're not like completely. There's no meta because the game hasn't even come out yet, but from what I can tell, it does seem like they have thought about a lot in this game, so there is a good bit of balancing. I will say that right now, both players are kind of neck and neck. I do think that our player here does have a slight advantage because they were able to get rid of at least 3 of the leader parts. I don't know how many parts a leader can have, but I don't think I've seen them equip another one after this. So I will say that it does seem like this game has some really interesting mechanics and some decent cards overall.
で、なんだ。
Okay, here we actually get to see one of the support cards that the opponent leader drew or added to their hand earlier in the game. So until the end of your next turn, increase your maximum energy by 1. Your current energy does not increase. So I think this is a way to kind of quickly gain energy kind of early on-ish. But you need those tactical icons in order to play these cards. But as I said, these are not cards that are in the deck. These are just stuff that's just sitting on the side, and you activate your ability or your leader's ability, and you just add them to your hand. Okay, so here we have little Lacey. Her ability, it costs 2 until the end of the turn. The cost of the next ability or action you activate becomes 0. This Medabot cannot be rapidly cooled this turn. So, if you have an extremely high costing ability on like your leader or another card, if you activate Little Lacy first, the next cost of that will be 0. So this card actually would be really good paired with our current player leader. Unfortunately, it's on the other side because I believe this leader that we have right now as the player that we're viewing, that cost of that ability is like 8. So we essentially make an 8 cost ability a 2 instead. And right there we see it. That is our leader, and you see the ability cost is 8 on that card right in the middle there. As I said, Little Lacy, if she was on this side of the board or on the field, this player's field, that effect would be absolutely fantastic to use because then you'd be able to freeze an enemy Medabot on the other side for just a cost of 2. Like, granted, Little Lacy will be out of the game at that point, but you're essentially like stunning something for a while.
このメダルは急速力的な。おお、なるほど。ちょっとやってみようかな。ちょっとやってみた。やってみた。やっている。ターン終了時まで次の発動する能力のコストを0にするよってやつをやってみました。ちょっとよくわかっていない。やってみて考える。やってみて考える。痛い。割れる。なるほど。ハイパーセプトが0で発動できる。
The opponent has actually been doing a really good job at
じゃじゃん。
stunning the player leader quite well with that burn effect. Because if that leader tries to attack, it loses 3,000 attack, and it possibly just does nothing when it tries to do anything.
ちょっとわからないやつらをよいってして通常攻撃でリア様を叩く。あ、間違えた。待って、間違えちゃった。
Okay, so we actually do get to see what happens if both leaders hit each other and they have the exact same power. You will indeed, both of you just hit each other, and you'll have to either remove an arm part or get rid of a barrier.
自分にも攻撃しちゃう。ああ、なるほどね。戻ってきちゃうっていう今初歩的なミスをチアがしました。6000と6000ですもんね。そうです。今めっちゃ頭が働かせたと思ったら全然違いました。ごめんなさい。そう、同じ数だと勝てないっていう。エンドフェイス。うん。そう、アイコで殴り合いをしちゃうんです。あ、エンドフェイズ私でした。また押すの忘れてた。そう、同点はダメなんです。マグネミサイルのカード。ある。あ、じゃあ見ちゃう。どうしましょう。
If there was one thing that I do hope to see in the next upcoming videos or anything of this game, I would like to see how deck building works, because I want to know how many cards of the same card you can actually add to the deck. So like, how many of the same meta fighter can you add? How many of the same tactical card can you add? I honestly haven't been keeping track of the number. I probably should have been, but I want to say maybe the most you can have is 3 of the same card, but I could be wrong.
大変です。どうしましょう。やっぱ倒していくべきなのか、もう狙っていってもいい気がします。バリア2個ですもんね。リア様が復活すれば3回いける。いやー、3000。とりあえずスタンドでした。あ、倒せた。倒せてくれた。じゃあこれを使っちゃっていいんじゃないですか。お、一斉射撃やっちゃいまして。痛い。とても痛いです。そっか。
So as we can see here, the game is pretty much just going to be over. That Metaforce card for Medabots is probably one of the strongest or at least a decently high card or high high tiered card in the game, considering the fact that you can get rid of for 7,000 damage only 2 barrier. Like I know it has to be like later in the game to use it, but 7,000 damage. If you get rid of a part, you get rid of another part, or if you get rid of barrier, you get rid of a part. Like you get rid of 2 things just for that simple of a cost. But still, though, really, really smart play. So now all the player has to do here is just cross attack or attack with all 3 Medabots and win the game. The opponent has no parts to get rid of, 1 barrier. So yeah, that's exactly what they did, and that'll be game.
ツヤの負けです。
やったー。
負けました。
And there you have it, another duel over. That is the second duel in the live stream. They did do a third, but I'm not going to cover that one because they really didn't do too much in it, and also the duel just ended because I think they ran out of time. Either way, though, I am excited for this game. I will cover more of this card game the closer it comes out, and the more videos that come out, I'm going to analyze it, try to figure out how all the mechanics work, especially that middle right portion of the thing. I don't know what that does, but I'll figure it out eventually. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and the original live stream will be in a link in the description so you can check it out, and I'll catch you later.